This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
It doesn't matter where you are in your career, just starting out, or if you're a 25-year veteran, continuous learning, listening to podcasts, reading different books on different topics that you're interested in around leadership, or reading a self-help book. Like, it doesn't matter. Just continuing to learn, I think, is so important.
Happy fall, everybody. Look, first of all, October is the best. Is October not the best? And my guest, this is the perfect first question for you, because here we have a month where you've got football and baseball and basketball, and everything is happening right now.
The best time of year.
It feels that way. Does it feel like Does Florida get a fall, by the way? Do you guys get a fall? Does it feel like fall?
It still feels like summer in Orlando, but we'll get there eventually. Probably around Thanksgiving, it'll cool down a little bit.
So I love having Jarrod Dillon on the show today. He's a 22-ish sports vet, 22 years. And
Yeah.
it's been Jarrod, it's been really cool to watch you do you. And I'm kind of grateful because maybe around year 7 or 8 or 9, I know Jarrod, not Jarrod Dillon. I feel like we've had a chance to, and Ryan, not Ryan Berman, right? So, but you've had a really cool career watching you do this. Now I'll call it a down and way out, right? Like you started in the Bay, and you worked your way down, and you've seen the NFL, and you've seen Major League Baseball, and you've seen the NHL. Now you've seen MLS. You've sort of seen all the big leagues. So one, of all the leagues, are you having the most fun now that you're running the show you're president of Orlando City SC and Orlando Pride? Do you think you're having the most fun now?
Yeah. So I'd say yes, short answer. There's a little reason, kind of multiple reasons behind that, if you want a little longer winded, but short answer is yes. Personally and professionally, never been as challenged kind of coming into this role over the last 2.5 years now that I've been here as the president of business operations for both Orlando City MLS and Orlando Pride in the NWSL. But it's also allowed me to grow the most. When I think about my career and the mentors I've had, and now what I'm trying to help along the way, steer and teach kind of the next generation coming up, as well as my own kids, I think that is a great place to be when you feel super motivated, passionate, excited, but also very challenged every day. And you're kind of getting both ends of the spectrum. And so that's why I say it's not because necessarily the title or what have you. It's I just think it's the situation I'm in right now, and been very blessed, like you said. I think it's actually closer to 24 years in professional sports, and yes, guilty as charged working across. I think I've worked in every major league sport except for the NBA, and have had some amazing opportunities and worked for amazing people along the way. And a big part of my job is to try to pay that forward, and help, my direct reports, but even just the next generation as a whole that'll be sitting in my seat one day. Trust me, Ryan, I know in these roles, there's someone coming behind you, right? And you're at the end of the day, you're not that important. Your title can be important. And I think people sometimes treat titles like that. I think what's important is to leave a legacy as much as you can. Might sound cliche, but I actually really genuinely take that to heart and have for a long time. Part of that's just because I've been around great people that I've learned from firsthand working under for the last 24 years.
My hope for today is to give a little peek into what life is like for Jarrod Dillon. But also, I think, I tell you what, I don't know if it made me smile. It shocked me when I looked at your LinkedIn profile and saw veteran sports. It's something about being a veteren. Yeah. I'm like, oh shit, I'm old. What happened to us?
I don't know if you looked at either of our beards lately, but they tend to be a little more gray than when we first connected in San Diego back in, 2009, 2010, probably.
I'm grateful I have hair on my face anywhere. That this is a victory for me.
Yeah, I got you.
So before we really dive in, how's the wife? How are the girls?
Everybody's great. Very blessed. Best part of my life is having an amazing partner and wife and 3 daughters that are 13, 10, and 9 that we're trying to just raise to be good human beings, because we need more of those in the world every day. And they're every much as part of this journey in terms of my career. Would not be where I'm sitting today without the support and quite frankly pushing of my wife Monica. I can tell you 3 definitive times in my career where I would have probably taken the easier path or stayed more comfortable without her really pushing us as a family. Because this isn't my career; it's our collective, family, right? And don't take those decisions to move somewhere and uproot your family and do those things really lightly. And without her support and I just think her entrepreneurial spirit, we probably wouldn't have moved from San Diego to Tampa in 2015. We probably wouldn't have moved from Tampa to Orlando 2.5 years ago. So owe her a lot of credit for making me do what's hard. I'm looking at the words behind you on your backdrop, making me do what's hard and get out of my comfort zone and take the road less traveled. And now it's gotten us to thankfully where we are as a family.
And it is the road less traveled. I mean, starting in the Bay and then working your way to San Diego and then working your way to Tampa.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not exactly like a puddle jumper. That's a real move, right? So I commend you for the moves you've made. I think I want today, I want to give something, to keep it in the sports metaphor land, like whether you're a rookie entering the sports industry or curious about entering what life is like in sports, to seasoned vet.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's funny. I had a conversation with the CEO of a sports company who was saying the good news is the bad news about sports, right? It's competitive and everyone's gunning for my job. And it wasn't backstabbing. He wasn't going at it from that way. It's just like, if you're in sports, you're probably going to be competitive. And I was talking about courage brands win, and winning is important. And so, but so now that you're in this seat, we'll start here and we'll work our way back. Okay. Now that you're in this seat and you think about, you're trying to build an identity for your front office team and winning, right? I'm sure they're competitive. How do you get them to play for the team versus just for themselves?
That's a great question. Really, everybody's wired a little differently, and I don't want to generalize, but I think you said something that's spot on. It's one of the reasons why I got into sports, why I've stayed in sports for 24 years, is people are ultra competitive and want to have individual success. Like, we all want to be good at our jobs, and people all want and feel good about being recognized for that, right? But I think above that is they put the team first. And, ultimately the goal is to win a championship, and no one individual is going to do that on their own, right? And I don't want it to sound cliche. We know that's anybody that's played sports understands that dynamic in the locker room and on the field, on the court. But in the front office, it plays out similarly. We try to build a culture of innovative risk takers that fail forward, that have each other's back, that show up every day, that are accountable and want to win individually, but more importantly, as a team. And so what we try to do is foster that, right? So we try to put processes in the place where every single individual of our staff has a voice in, where are we now? Where do we perceive we are now? Where's our staff telling us the reality where we are now as a culture? And where do we want to go? And that started when I got here 2.5 years ago, as easy as taking 30, 45 minutes, one-on-one with every individual employee to learn more about, who are you? Why are you here? What are you passionate about? Why do you love coming to work every day? What do you brag about your job to your friends about? And then conversely, what do you not like about your job? What are you concerned about? What might lead you to leave here? And it was the first thing I did, spread out over the course of the first 4 months I was here, was have those individual conversations. And it's pretty amazing that, the kind of through lines, if you will, that kind of come to the top pretty quickly. And we've worked really hard over the last 2 years since then to try to solve for some of those big hurdles. But they're things, they're not astronomical things. They're things like more transparency. I want to know what's going on in the business. I want to get out of my little silo. I want to know, are we having success as a company? Where are we going? What's our vision? What's our mission? What are our values? What do we stand for? Who are we? And how do we know if we're doing those things? That I think that translates probably to any organization, quite frankly. I don't care what the business is. But that's my professional career has been 100% in professional sports. So I'm not the best person to talk to about, working for, a corporate 500 or, a publicly traded company about those things. But that's what I can tell you about the mentality and the culture around professional sports. And everywhere I've been, it's been a little different. And I've tried to take something away from my time at the San Diego Padres, the Oakland Raiders, the, San Francisco Giants, tried to take a little piece away from each one of those that I could try to bring here. But ultimately, your culture is a melting pot of your people, right? And so, I think there's some structurally things that you could put into place anywhere you went. But at the end of the day, your people are going to really help drive your culture. And that's going to be different everywhere you go because you're going to have a different team.
I think creativity can get a bad rap in business. I really do. Like I feel like I had an early mentor who said to me, and I came out of the Mad Men era. I talk about dating myself, right? 25 years ago. So my mentors were all crazy madmen in New York City. And one of my first bosses said, "You're not in advertising, you're in creative business." And I'm like so grateful that as a 22-year-old kid, I had run into that. Cause now I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Like I don't see myself as a business guy. I'm not going to run a club. I don't see myself as a creative. I'm not a starving artist. I'm a creative business guy. Like it's smack down the middle. So I'm curious for you. And I think great creatives actually really like secretly process as long as it's creative. So as you've like sort of worked your way up the ladder to your role, has there been a moment now where you're like, that's so weird. Why is this process like this? I've never seen any of my mentors or bosses do it this way, but I think this is the right thing for right now. Hey, I know this is a lot of work. We're going to pivot. Have you seen
Yeah.
like a moment where you've done as president where you just created a new process altogether?
Better yet, I've seen our staff iterate that on their own. I think that's the sign of good leadership, not from my seat, but from our collective organization. When your staff can iterate and be creative and make those changes on their own, without having to go seek approval or go wait and be bogged down in bureaucracy for the president to approve it 2 months later. One of the examples I have most recently top of mind, because we're literally reviewing it right now, is sitting in my seat with our executive team. I meet with my senior executive team, call it 8 to 10 executives pretty frequently. But when I get past that layer to our directors and then our managers and then the rest of our staff, bandwidth wise, you just don't have the opportunity to meet with all those people all the time frequently enough to know what's on their mind. So one of the things we've stood up that has been highly successful for us, in my opinion, to make sure that next layer of leadership is getting a proper voice in the room, a seat at the table. We created the Directors Alliance, right? So I kind of look at our director level as kind of that mid-level. They have the hardest job in the company. They're managing up to their executive team, and then they're managing down to the frontline staff, right? And they have their ear to the floor, right? And they know what's going on in the community. They know what's going on with our season ticket members, our fans, et cetera. So the challenge that we threw out to them was, hey, we want you to have more transparency to what's going on. We actually want to hear, we being the executive team, want to hear from you on what you think we need to be doing. Are we not innovating quick enough? Are there certain processes that are broken? And so, all of our directors meet probably once a month, if not more. There's a handful of them that have taken on leadership roles of themselves, steering committee. And we just had a couple meetings over the last few weeks with them where they presented a ton of opportunity to us, saying, hey, senior leadership team, here's what we're seeing. right? Here's where we're seeing gaps, whether that's process, whether that's innovation, whether that is culture. And they're now making recommendations on how do you think we can work through those and get better. So we're in a point right now where we're evaluating their input, we're evaluating their recommendations, and we're going to be meeting next week on, okay, here are the things based on your recommendations we're signing up for, and that we will, executive sponsor to put into place.
Gotta feel good, right? Like,
It feels great. I love it. I love it. And I hope, the feedback from them is, hey, we feel like we have a seat at the table. We know when we can flag something and put a business case together and go explain it and show it to our executive team that we're going to get proper consideration.
and I can tell you, and I know you know this, but maybe this is more for the listeners. This is not a new problem. This might be evergreen for all businesses, but I know in sports, leapfrogging into the org chart, right, and not falling into ivory tower syndrome, where you're too far away from the work, and you don't want to be that far away from the work. And how like it is a tricky balance, because you want to allow people to do their job, and you don't want to micromanage, and you want them to have autonomy, but you also kind of have the experience to know, hey, I can help you pick up a little bit of speed here. You need to know a little bit. You need to know enough to be dangerous to help people sort of navigate and guide without doing their jobs for them. Does that still hold true for you?
It does. And I think, again, name of the podcast, name of your newsletter, all these things around being courageous, right? And I see the even the words behind you on the screen. Like, when I think about that, what does being courageous mean? I think from a leadership perspective, a lot of the time it's being vulnerable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And, what better way to do that, than to really put yourself out there, uh, come to, talk to your team. We don't have everything figured out. We're a work in progress. I don't have every single answer. Collectively, we do as a group. But how do I then be vulnerable enough to admit that, to show that, to lead, from the front, and put processes in the place where everybody has a vote, everybody has a say, everybody feels like they have equal skin in the game to make this the best place on earth to work.
In the spirit of what I have behind me here, and you've mentioned it a couple of times. So I've got my fancy step and repeat, folks.
Yes.
And we've got a brave what's hard as our tagline. And by the way, it sounds cool until you realize I have a step and repeat in my house. Okay. Talk about my wife did not approve this. I'm on an island by myself with a step and repeat. Okay. But this might be the hardest, the most realist convo we have on the pod. Why can't California and Florida get along? You've lived in both places, okay, and permission granted to defend Florida. And this is not a political show, and it behooves us to keep it this way. But hurricanes and hanging chads and Elian Gonzalez and all the things. All right, in the spirit of bringing us back, permission granted to defend. I mean, you've been in Florida for a decade now, yes?
Mm-hmm.
I know you love Orlando.
Yeah, I got here in 2015 to Tampa, and we moved to Orlando about 2.5 years ago.
How's it been?
It's been phenomenal. We love it. I mean, listen, California, for my wife and I are both from the San Francisco Bay Area originally. We got married there. We started our family. 2 of our 3 daughters were born in San Diego. We were pregnant with our 3rd when we moved. I mean, it's my entire side of the family is still there. My in-laws have followed us out to Florida for some good Florida retirement living.
Nice.
But everybody else is still in California. So California, family, friends, always home, right? And helped make us the people we are today. Florida experience has been amazing. It's just fun living in a different place, different culture, different ethnicities and food. And I look at it just as simple as the beaches, San Francisco and San Diego versus the beaches out here. It's been an amazing family experience for us, and to be able to see different parts of the country that had we, again, stayed in our comfort zone, probably would have never explored, never had seen it. We not left the West Coast. It's really been eye-opening for me. I think people-wise, the communities, I can only speak for the experience of the communities that I've lived in, that we've lived in as a family in Tampa and Orlando, have been amazing. amazing people, and we've made lifelong friends. And now it's funny looking back going, wow, I could not imagine life not having lived here, and all the people that we're surrounded by every day and have been for the last 10 years.
It's been cool to watch. What an adventure, man. And maybe this is for the rookies. So if I'm curious about sports and I want to get in, and this might not be the perfect metaphor, but I'm still going with it. So do you think it's like, when I think about the skips and the leaps that you've made, I mean, you've kind of been a utility player, right? Like you've played a bunch of different positions in a bunch of different leagues.
Yeah.
Right. And do you prefer that to, hey, be a master of one position, just pitch deep into a game, or be the best goalie you can be?
No, I mean, listen, my take on this in the sports business world is, if your desire is to continue ascending up the ranks, like, you need to get broader, you need to get wider, you need to learn. I don't care if it's your day in and day out job. Like, focus on doing your job well, right? Number one, and good things will come. But like, to the extent you have some bandwidth, get wider. I preach this to any young person that is asking questions. They come, first thing I do in the first 3 weeks that someone's joined the organization is we meet, and they're always freaked out. Like, why am I meeting the president? I just got here. I'm still trying to figure out where the restroom is. Right. And it's because I want to know who they are. I want to know where they come from. I want to know my teammates, but it's also to encourage them. Hey, there's a couple things I would really like to ask you as the president of our club. There's a couple things. I don't care if you've only been here a couple weeks. There's a couple things we really would like to ask of you. And one of those is, get out of your comfort zone. Go meet your teammates. Go spend time with people in other departments. Yes, you are PR all day, every day, or your ticket sales all day, every day, but you have this amazing trove of talented people around you. Go learn what they do, right? And so as I look back on my career, I think the areas at the time I did not know, was when I was really being challenged, was when I had the opportunity to go oversee new parts of the business that I had not overseen before. And typically in promotions along your way, you're going to have those opportunities. Somebody's going to hire you to do a job, and you're going to pick up a new part of the business that you have not overseen directly before. Everybody has that. Or you're going to manage somebody for the first time, or a team for the first time. Like, what are you doing to prepare yourself for that conversation when someone interviews you and says, but you haven't done this? You don't check the box of having that experience directly. So how do you convince me that you are capable of doing it? Well, that's how you do it. You go get experience as much as you can. You learn the lingo. You talk the talk. You start, educating yourself on other parts of the business, so that when that happens, you can speak intelligently to what you're going to do and when you're in that position. And I think, that happened to me a number of times. And I'll never forget, probably the most important one that I had was in San Diego with one of my greatest mentors, Tom Garfinkel, who's the CEO of Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, and the Dolphins and F1 and all the great things they're doing there. He was my boss in San Diego. And I'll never forget going to lunch with him. And he said, hey, listen, I'm going to be reorging the executive team a little bit. At that point, I had been overseeing ticketing for, I want to say, 4 years. He said, I'm going to move you to oversee corporate partnership, sponsorship. And I had not worked a day in my career at that point, probably 12 years in at that point, in that department. But over the course of multiple years, I learned to understand those, what those people did, the importance of corporate partnerships, all the relevant things that happen around that. And I'll never forget that conversation. I was really nervous. I'll be honest. I don't know if I wanted to do it, but it wasn't really like an option. Tom was like, you're going to go do this and you're going to be great at it. And here's why.
Yeah.
And this is why it is so important for your career. And so I can tell you right now, had he not made that decision, for me, and I would have never led to the job that I got in Tampa, which would have never led to the job that the career that I have here today. Forcing you to get wider, forcing you to get out of your comfort zone, to learn different parts of the business is one of the single most important, I think, qualities that somebody that wants to work in sports can have.
Do you feel like when you were younger in the industry, like you go back to that time machine, back to that conversation? Yeah, you wanted to be good. Yeah, you're competitive. But did you, in your mind, go, one day I'm going to run a sports club or a sports organization?
I mean, it was always an aspiration. It was always something I knew I wanted to do, and I was very careful and selective about where I went, who I worked for, what opportunities I took to, you don't know everything, right? But like to the best of your ability, I was looking at my career leading to that opportunity that I've had here in Orlando to help lead an organization. I didn't know what type of club, I didn't know what league, I didn't, but that's definitely something I aspire to do. And when I look at my career, gosh, make me sound like such an old dude, man. I got a long time left. Okay. I got a long time left. But if I were to be done tomorrow, I think the two things I would point to that I've done best in my career was, being able to work for amazing people / mentors. And that I try to preach that to young people all the time. Find amazing mentors that are going to pour into you, that are going to help you develop, they're going to help you become the best version of yourself, professionally and personally. And I did that, man. I have been so blessed to have a handful of amazing mentors. And then secondly, hire really good people and then be a good mentor to them. So I feel like I've been in this really lucky position that I've been in the middle of this incredible sandwich of talent, these mentors and people that I've reported to, that I've worked for, and I've hired. Man, I couldn't even tell you, one of my most proud stats is easily over 30 now, people that I've worked with in my career that I either hired directly or that I inherited and helped develop, that were on my team, that are now executives, vice presidents, or higher in this industry. Many of them running clubs of their own, and that is probably one of the things I'm most proud of, is that kind of tree, if you will, of all the, the branches and limbs of all these great people that I've had the chance to work with and be a part of.
Oh, I'm on a Reddit chain right now of the Jarrod Dillon tree. There's thousands. Now you're dating yourself, right? It's like, hey.
But that's the best part. Like, and that's what I also love about this industry. Maybe it's just who I learned from, the mentors I learned for, but like you said it earlier, like finding the time to pay it forward and give back.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I find people do it a lot in our industry, which I really love.
I don't know if you feel this way or not, but I think, again, anyone listening, like, just first, it's often hard to get into sports. So number one is find a way in, right? Like, you might not find a mentor out of your first gig, but find a way in and pay attention. I also really loved your comment about, hey, in the first month I'm meeting with everyone new. And we talked about process and how process can be creative. It can be a path to being creative. I'm pretty sure at Uber they still do this. They don't do exit interviews. They do entrance interviews.
Nice.
Right. And the reason they do that is, like, we know you're going to, the Kool-Aid of the culture is going to win if we don't cut it off at the path. What can we learn from you before you get in here, right? About the way you think, about the way you operate. What was so good about your last experience that we need to bring into this experience, which might be very cool for you to, like,
I love that.
Weave into your stuff. I think you kind of answered this, but in the spirit of keeping us a little young. So Danita Johnson's been on the show. She's fellow MLSer. She's over at DC United. And I asked her, let's say you could write a letter, or, in this case, you could pick up the phone and call your younger self. So let's say you today, Jarrod, could right now pick up the phone and call Padres day one, Jarrod Dillon. And you're just doing your thing in San Diego. Maybe you're having dinner in the gas lamp, and phone rings and you see Jarrod Dillon on the other end. What is the what you pick up the phone? What is the one piece of advice you would give that Jarrod Dillon?
I think that the thing that I would tell myself the most is just to be open-minded. I think the more points of view on any topic that you can take in, the more data points, the more conversations, the more opinions that you can take, process, think about before you make a decision, the better. And, I think one of the biggest things we try to guard against right now, just thinking about, our setup, our executive team, is being guilty of falling into the trap of groupthink. That's why I like the example that you said on the entry interviews as opposed to exit. Like, one of the things you don't want to do is just fall in line with everybody else and be a yes man, yes woman, and just kind of fall into that trap of groupthink. The more diverse points of view we can have, the more diverse group of people we can hire are going to bring the more diverse group of backgrounds, experiences, culture, And all of those things I think really help if you can force yourself to be open-minded and hear all those things and not say it's this way or the highway, or I already have the answer. I've seen this before, blah, blah, blah. So being open-minded and taking in as many points of view and data points as possible as it relates to, decision making.
We talked a little bit about the importance of winning in sports, and it's nice to say that there's lots of ways to win, but at the end of the day, you have to also kind of win. And if you look at what's going on down in Orlando, you got Orlando City SC, fifth straight year in a row in the playoffs. That's pretty awesome. You've got the Pride. I think it's been 135 days
Crushing it. Yeah.
since they've given up more than a goal. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
What is going on, right? Like it's 23 game unbeaten streak going off till last year. It's look, I'm 3,000 miles away. Okay. But it sure feels like the club and the organization is winning. Do you is that easy for me to say, or do you feel that to be the truth as well?
I think if you ask anybody around here, especially those that are directly over soccer operations, they will tell you we haven't won anything yet. They're mindset on winning championships, and that's it. So yes, going to the playoffs 5 consecutive years for Orlando City, which by the way we're one of only 3 MLS teams that can claim that in the last 5 years. That's amazing. But I think if you ask them, they're probably most proud of winning the 2022 U.S. Open Cup championship because it was a championship trophy, first one in MLS era this club ever won. Number one goal, go win an MLS trophy. You talk to the coaching staff, the players, our GM over the Orlando Pride, which honestly, I don't care how this season goes. That will be a book or a movie one day. It is the most epic turnaround of a franchise I have ever been a part of or have ever witnessed. But if you ask Haley Carter, our GM, if you ask Seb Hines, our head coach, or anybody on the team, I would tell you they're not worried about a 23-game win streak. They're not worried about winning the Shield. They want to win the championship.
When you say it's a movie, what do you attribute the turnaround to?
I don't know if people know that story, but when we got here a couple of years ago, the entire women's league, the NWSL, was going through some monumental changes across the league, and some things really needed to change to protect the players and to better the league. And we had some of those things going on here, and we had to clean up a lot of things and start over. And we had to start over. We had to start over philosophically, staffing, you name it. And we had great players leaving. The culture was not great here. People didn't necessarily want to be here, and that was on both the I think the staffing side, but also the player side. And I mean, that was less than 3 years ago. And I think when it starts at the top, and it starts with ownership. And Mark Wilf and the Wilf family, our owners, deserve all the credit because they laid the foundation financially for us to go do those things and put the right people and process and resources into place. And we went out and hired amazing people, and those people, in particular, Haley Carter, our general manager, Seb Hines, our head coach, and a lot of other support staff have changed the culture to now this is in 2 years' time to what we talked about, those accolades. We were dead last in the league, I think last place in the league on top of all that performance-wise. And, who knows where this season will go, but where I can sitting here today, they're in the lead to win the Shield, and they'll be the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. And, it's a remarkable turnaround story. And the thing that I think all of us are most proud of is all of the staff and players are happy to be here. They want to be here. They are signing contracts extensions. Agents are calling from other players saying, we've seen what you're doing, want to be there. Staff want to come work here. I mean, yes, winning is fun and that helps, but culture trumps that every day of the week. And it's just remarkable to see that turnaround in 2.5 years, to have been able to play a small part of that. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I came here. I have 3 daughters, as I mentioned before. They grew up playing. They all play sports. They played soccer. I coached them, volunteer coach for 8 years in youth soccer. And for me, for my personal legacy, my family, I wanted my daughters, yes, they've seen me around professional sports. They were always going to see that. But for them to see dad to be a part of helping, women's professional sports advance and be put up on the, the platforms and the resources that it should, that was a big draw for us to come here. It's worked out great. We got a lot of work in front of us. But that story is amazing. And I'm convinced it'll be it'll be a book or a movie one day.
It is amazing how often you have this idea of what your professional life will be like. And then you wake up one morning, you're like, wait a minute, my personal life and it's like DNA. And they're like weaving together. I mean, I remember the amount of times I've said I wrote Return on Courage as a business development tool. And then you go on the journey and you realize, one, I wrote the book because I needed the book. And then two, I've got my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old, watching every move I make. I'm not going to tell them to like, go be courageous. But if they want to do it, there's a footprint. There's assets that they could read, they could listen to, and here's the path to go do it. I'm curious for you when people say things like turnaround. Oh, the turnaround. In my last life, however long ago that was, it feels like a really long time. Like turnarounds. Well, gotta fix the culture, and it's gonna take 1,000 days. And let's slow down, temper expectations. But maybe it doesn't feel like that's the case anymore. Like it isn't. How much of it is truly about people? And then how does technology and tools, where does that play in all of this as well? Do you feel like turnarounds are more like turnaround? Like it's that quick now, or what's your take?
I think we've turned around the business here. We've turned around the culture. I've been a part of some other turnarounds. And I think that the people are always the most important thing. And the reason why I say that, like, I don't care if you have perfect process. I don't care if you have perfect resources and platforms and all these things. Like if you don't have the right people in the right seat, all working well together, it is so much harder to get there. You hold yourself back. So, the old adage of, people plus process kind of equal results. You don't have the right people in the right place. You can have all those other things buttoned up and perfect, but the results aren't going to come either as strong as you want or as quick as you want. I'm a firm believer in that. And I will also tell you, like, it is the hardest part because there's no easy solution. Sometimes on the business resource side, there are some easy solutions. Oh, we just need to use this platform and it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier and more efficient. That's probably true. Oh, if we had X amount more dollars, we could go advertise more and hire more people. Yes, those things have a direct kind of ROI if you can. People part is so much harder because there is no easy way around it. It takes showing up and doing the hard work every single day. It's emotional. It's emotionally taxing. It's making yourself vulnerable. It is helping people. It is having difficult conversations over and over, uncomfortable conversations over and over again. That's hard to do over the course of many months. Not many people want to do it. When you're in those moments, you're not feeling like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I signed up for. This is so much fun. But it takes that every day because ultimately for the culture, I believe for the culture to come together as strong as possible, you have to have a group of people that, that are honest, that truly believe their teammates and their leaders are here to serve them, to help each other grow. And that takes time. That takes time to build that relationship, build trust.
So I got 3 more for you, and then you get your life back. But the first one, I'm curious. Like when you run your own business, or you run a club, you don't get a lot of days off, right? Like you just don't. Between sports in general, and something goes wrong, or you kind of always have to stay on your toes a little bit. I'm curious for you. Where is your place that you can go to fully disconnect? And maybe it's just one weekend after a season. Yeah. Where do you go? What's that spot?
Well, I think we got to say this first. You brought up a really good point that we probably should have talked about sooner. Like taking a day off. When you talk about being courageous, like taking a day off, raising your hand. I need a day off. I need a mental day, mental health day. Like because we talk about this a lot, probably more than ever than I've seen in my career, which is a great thing. The mental health balance and taking some time off, because in our industry, it doesn't matter what sport you're in, it is year round nonstop. And yeah, we're running multiple soccer clubs and a venue that hosts third party events. It is nonstop. It is year round. And you could be caught up in this real quick, 7 to 7, 365. And that is a recipe for burnout or worse. And so we're investing a lot of time and resources right now for our staff around, just mental well-being and having and, giving people, hopefully giving people, empowering people to feel like, yes, I am going to take my, my days off, my earned days off, right? And go have a mental health day and go relax, because that is so important. I actually say that that's one of the most courageous things people can do these days, because everybody's scared to do that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be, they think that's a sign of weakness, or that their boss is going to be checking on FaceTime and who's here and who's not. Like, that is the opposite of good leadership. Good leadership should be encouraging their people to have some sort of a balance, whatever that is. I hate saying work-life balance, because that's different. It's different for everybody. But figuring out what your personal balance is and how do we build a business around that to help support you.
All right. So the two spots, I'm curious. And by the way, I understand we have, there's labels that come with this. There's times you're Jarrod Dillon, the president, but when you're Jarrod Dillon, the dad,
It's easy.
What's your happy place?
I know, honestly, it's not anything fancy. It is just hanging out with my girls, my wife at home in our neighborhood right now. Like, honestly, that's it. Like, whether it's hanging out in the backyard of the pool or riding our bikes around, just spending quality time together. It doesn't have to be anywhere. It doesn't have to be spending a bunch of money going on a fancy trip. That is probably for me the easiest. If I wanted to get outside of that and say, like, okay, if you got to travel somewhere, man, I love going home to Hillsburg, California, Sonoma County wine country, little sleepy, quiet, 12,000 person wine country town where I grew up. It's an hour north of San Francisco. If your listeners haven't been there, some of the best wine in the world. I love wine. I love talking with people. I love being out in the wine country amongst the vineyards, seeing my family and friends that I grew up with. I think that is one of my happiest places that I could pick out, and taking my family and friends there, showing it off to them. That is always when I really need like a reset, that's typically where I try to go.
Second question, bravest thing you're working on right now?
So there's two. I'll try not to be long-winded here. One personal, one professional. I think the bravest thing we're trying to work on professionally right now, I talked a little bit about earlier, but how are we continuing to give all of our staff a voice in what we are evolving into? Culture is evolving every day, in my opinion. That's because you have people change and, different things like that. And, we spent a lot of time, we talked about the Directors Alliance earlier. We had a company-wide survey, engagement survey go out yesterday. We staff meeting, we're doing a lot of different things to try to get input from where are we as a culture? Where are we hitting on? What are we doing great at? And what are we falling short on of what you need to be the best version of yourself here? So that is a big, bold, project to try to figure that out, because it's arguably different for everybody, right? And we got 200 plus full-time employees. But that is professionally, I think, the most brave thing we're working on right now. I think for me personally, it's being a father to 3 daughters, including one that is a newly minted teenager, which changes everything. And how do I make sure that I'm showing up for them in all the ways they need me to, while still trying to be the best spouse I can be and partner to my wife and best, leader and executive at work every day. It's a hard balance. But at the end of the day, when I'm out of this seat and someone else is in it, or, worse, when I'm gone, what's your tombstone going to say? I don't know that there's that many people legacy wise that are going to really care about, oh man, she or he really, they worked overtime. They were always there 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. What I care most about is, what are my kids and my wife going to say about me, and the people that I worked with, about me as a leader, about me as a person. So Yeah, I think there's a lot of time right now for me being spent on the personal side with my daughters as they start coming into their own age, being teenagers, and life changes. You remember those days. It was hard. Who am I? Who am I going to be? Who do I surround myself with? My own identity. Those are not easy questions. It's an awkward age. A lot of growth and a lot of second guessing, and I think that's just me trying to show up and be the best version of dad that I can be to them.
Well, I appreciate you, Jarrod Dillon. Thank you for letting us kind of go behind the curtain and not just see President Jarrod, but like Dad Jarrod and husband Jarrod and real Jarrod. Look, if someone's made it 50 minutes into the episode, they obviously are, like they're still here. What are you guys?
That one person's still listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. Someone's still listening, right? Like they're clearly invested in, they're curious about sports, or they're curious about leadership, right? So for them, what's your sign up for them? Like what should they, how should we end the show?
Well, we talked about it being open-minded. I think it goes hand in hand with continuous learning. That is a big, big deal to me. And I think for all of us in our careers, it doesn't matter where you are in your career, just starting out, or if you're a 25-year veteran, like continuous learning, listening to podcasts, reading different books on different topics that you're interested in around leadership, or interviews with different people in the industry, like reading a self-help book. Like, it doesn't matter. Just continuing to learn, I think, is so important for all of us as individuals, personally and professionally as individuals. So, that would be my sign off to people, is just encourage you to continue to challenge yourself to do that. I'm reading a book on worldwide soccer economics right now. And I'm also on day 301 of Duolingo learning Portuguese. Like, those are the two things right now. I'm trying to, improve myself, right, for different reasons. But, being that continuous learner, those are a couple examples of things I want to do. It doesn't really matter what it is. Just do it. Do something, and you're going to continue to learn and grow.
Well, I look forward to hearing what club in Portugal you're going to be running in 5 years from now. And in all seriousness, Jarrod, good luck. Good luck to the clubs down there. Hopefully, you guys bring back some brass. Take it easy on my wave. If you run into the San Diego Wave, please.
No promises, but I will give you a shout out to. I see you in your Padres gear, always near to my heart. So I know they're going into the playoffs here right now, and I'll be rooting hard.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're heading down later tonight, and dead giveaway that we record the show and then go live. This will go live in a couple weeks, but hopefully those boys make a run for the old boss man. And
if they make a run, I'll be seeing you at a few games.
Oh, sounds good to me. Come on out. San Diego misses you, man. Good to see you, Jarrod.
It was great to see you. I appreciate you having me on, and same for you. Keep up the great work. You're making a huge difference in people's lives with the content you're putting out, and just appreciate everything you're doing, Ryan.
Thanks, Jarrod. Be good, man. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.